Hey y'all. I wanted to make a quick video on the situation that has kind of taken over the news in recent days. I'm inside this time around because nobody's home, and I also it's getting a little cold outside these past few days. I you know so basically what happened is the CEO of United Healthcare, which is like a health insurance company, uh, was gunned down. I think in New York City. I don't actually know the specific details of the location, but I know he was gunned down by some guy, like execution style, and there was a bunch of evidence found on the crime scene that kind of implied that this was very much targeted towards like healthcare companies and the healthcare situation in America. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, I mean, it's not great. We have people who kind of like die on a regular basis because we don't treat healthcare like a human right here. We treat it more like something where it's like, okay, you're gonna get the treatment, but we're gonna like make you pay shitloads for it, right? So, it's one of those things where it's a pretty major issue, and it's interestingly a pretty major issue that kind of similarly to abortion has very much like united the whole, like, most of the country behind central ideas. But what we've seen in recent days is a response to the assassination. So they allegedly found the guy. I'm gonna refer to him as the guy because I think, like, right now they're making it pretty clear that this is their guy. But again, he is innocent until proven guilty. He is not, like, I don't want to fully associate him with the shooter. But this guy named Luigi Mangione, something like that. He was the guy that supposedly shot shot the UHC CEO. And, like, there's a lot of people online who are kind of cheering this on. They're like shit talking the McDonald's employee who supposedly ratted out Luigi to the police. Because it was interesting. Like, for a few days, we didn't even know who killed the guy. We just knew he got shot. And, it seems like police went into a very, very big investigation. I think part because it was so like the killing of a major CEO. I mean, it was immediately huge news. So I think there was a lot of pressure on law enforcement to figure it out quickly. Now, does that mean that Luigi is a fall guy? Possibly. Do I still think it's probable they probably have the right guy? Also, probably, I feel like if they were going to go with a fall guy, they wouldn't have taken as long as they did to get one. But that's just my opinion. Again, innocent until proven guilty. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people online just like cheering this on. And it's, I can understand. Okay, I can understand not having sympathy for the CEO. I can understand looking at the perspective of the guy that got gunned down and having like absolutely no sympathy whatsoever for him, because yeah, he probably was complicit in just outright, very clear ethical and moral crimes against probably thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of people. We're talking one of the biggest companies. There were statistics that immediately came out about how UHC is a healthcare company that is like pretty notorious for like denying people's healthcare claims or health insurance claims. It's like, yeah, this dude probably was a real scumbag, but I also kind of stand by the notion that, like, the glorification of Mangione and the, like, treating him like a martyr, treating him like he's anything more than someone who, yes, like, did take being upset about a situation and turned that into, I'm just gonna shoot a guy to death, right, in the middle of the street. Do I think there should be glorification of Mangione? No. Like, it's kind of fucked up. Like, and like the people shitting on the McDonald's employee, it's like, this guy, for all we knew, had a manifesto about how he was going to go on. Like, anytime you run into somebody that's wanted for murder, the initial inclination should always be to report it. It doesn't even it usually doesn't, like, not even usually. It almost always doesn't even matter if that person, if there's like a reason for you to think that maybe the murder was actually kind of justified. That person could be a threat. That person is potentially problematic, right? And I think, throughout this process, it's kind of been like people have realized that we've had these healthcare issues for so long that instead of advocating in like more peaceful ways to get reform, to see things like Obamacare kind of be expanded to maybe make healthcare more of a public right, instead of doing that, like, they're now resorting to this. And I get it. Like, we're watching people we know die because of this shit. We're watching people we know have massive amounts of medical debt. I mean, debt is one of the biggest issues in America these days. Am I saying that doesn't matter? No. Am I saying that warrants this kind of violence that very quickly goes down like a very dangerous path precedent-wise? Not as clear. I think, like, when when we resort to just straight up murder, like, there isn't another way to put this. This was murder. When you resort to that, you get into the kind of thinking that was ripe during the French Revolution. The French Revolution has kind of been, unfortunately, like, one of those less looked at pieces of history, because it really was a testament to how absolutely brutal revolutionary types of thinking can get, and how if you are not careful about what you say and about what you advocate for, you can get quite literally like hundreds of people killed. Because during the French Revolution, they overthrew the monarchy, but then there was a huge debate, like a debate that created violence, like killed more people than the revolution itself, right? This concept of like the revolution was essentially fighting against itself because people couldn't decide what they wanted to do, not only with the monarchy, but also with the new country. This guy, Maximilien Robespierre, led one of the most radical factions. And he was like, listen, we're the revolution. We need to strong arm what we want into the status quo. And that's exactly what he did. He used a recently invented contraption called the guillotine to chop people's heads off when they espoused any kind of opposition to the revolution. He quite literally made fear essentially like government policy. And I'm not saying the shooting of some random CEO is necessarily going to lead to that. I am saying be careful. Be very, very careful, because we don't look at the French Revolution enough and say to ourselves, this is reason for us to not just go shooting people that we find to have committed heinous moral crimes, right? This is probably a good reason not to establish a precedent of vigilantism. So yeah, those are just my two thoughts. Not two, just my one thought. And also, now that my parents are home, I also want to point out that I kind of found a comment I saw in one of the YouTube videos really funny about how it was like solving healthcare with gun violence is the most American thing I've ever seen. I was like, yeah, that's accurate.